Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Sin and Tonic, finally. Today's story is that of the Jigsaw Killer, not to be confused with the Saw movies, but still every bit as gruesome. Let's go. Sin and Tonic! Okay, I cannot tell you how good it feels to be back. A few things, that's four. I have had the coals on in the sauna because it was really chilly today. I felt really cold. So if you can hear weird noises, it's that, because I've turned it off now, but it makes some like noises. It will stop soon. And I had COVID, for any of you that didn't know. So I might look a bit shite. My voice might be a bit different. It's felt really hoarse and odd. I did cough a lot. And I still have got a bit of a cough. So excuse me if I'm clearing my throat or things like that, And I'm still absolutely knackered. I went to bed at 4 o'clock yesterday in the afternoon. I didn't go to sleep, I just lay there. But yeah, for like hours. I'm just really, really tired. So hence the no makeup. I just put some shine on. So we're just gonna have my au naturel face. It's not too scary, is it? Anyway, so yeah, we're all doing much better. And thank you so much for everyone that was messaging and wishing us well. Anyway, I have missed you lots and lots and lots. And now I'm back and I can only go up from here, she says, touch wood. So let's start. Oh, this story is not a Saw true life story. You will gather why he was called the Jigsaw Killer as we go on. Our story begins in 2009, March, and this is when a series of gruesome discoveries would be made in and around Hertfordshire in England. I honestly feel like this is the most I have talked in 2 weeks, and I do feel a little bit breathless actually. Bear with me, please. Big spider there. Go on. Whoa, don't come down here. Oh my gosh, that is a really big spider. Oh, really? I haven't got the emotional energy for a great big tarantula to crawl across me. That way. Oh gosh, now I don't want to take my eyes off of it. The first of our discoveries is in... Can't see it now. Gonna have to give up. March 2009, the 22nd. On this day, in a village in Hertfordshire, a local farmer makes... Shut up. Fuck me, where are you? He's gone on to black stuff, so now he's camouflaged. Jesus Christ. What was I saying? Bloody spider. I'm not even that scared of them, but I just want to know where it is. Okay, moving on. So a local farmer in his field finds a bag, and it's like a sports bag. He finds this bag on his land, and inside the bag, so he opens the bag, and inside the bag is another bag, like a carrier bag, and that carrier bag is wrapped up in duct tape. He didn't open that bag, but the thing inside the bag, from what he could feel, was squishy. Like I said, he didn't open the bag, so he called the police to say what he'd found, and the police came. The police opened the bag and found a whole severed human leg. What the hell? Probably not what they were expecting to find. That is what they found. And so this would spark the beginning of an investigation, obviously. The leg was taken in for, what's the word? Forensic testing and stuff like that. And what can you tell from a leg? It's pretty difficult, isn't it? So what they did determine was that whoever the leg belonged to had eczema. There was eczema on that leg. And they also were between 5'6" and 5'10". So that was their estimate. And other than that, that was pretty much it. Not a lot to go on with just the one leg. Luckily for them, I guess, yeah, not the person. But then a week later, there would be another grim discovery. Again, in another small village, about half an hour away from the first village, another discovery is made. This time, not a farmer. This time it was a group out walking. Bit sad. I don't know why it's better for the farmer. I don't know. I just imagine that a farmer's a bit more robust. I guess that's just Sophie. Bad speculation or stereotyping. Naughty you. But these people were just out on a stroll, not obviously expecting to find what they find. They find not a leg, but a forearm. Literally a forearm. No elbow and no hand. So just the forearm. What the hell? So this body part, this forearm, was then compared with the leg, and it was determined that the leg and the forearm belonged to the same person. So, this is a bit... what the heck? On the 31st of March, in Leicestershire, which was now 100 miles away from the original couple of villages where the arm and the forearm and the leg were found, another farmer would then make probably the grossest discovery of all. And that would be the severed head that belonged, again, to this person, this body. Not a normal severed head. As if, what the hell isn't a normal... A severed head is not normal, is it, Sophie? But you know what I mean. Oh my God. Oh. What I'm getting at is it wasn't just a head. The head had its eyes removed and the skin removed, and it was... I mean, I can't really imagine it, but... It wasn't... any features had been removed from the head. So it was just, I'm guessing, like flesh. What a horrible thing to find. That is really grim. That is horrible. It was matched to the other body parts, and it was determined from the head that the body was a male, a man. Moving on to the 7th of April. About 10 minutes away from the original leg finding, you know what I mean? Sorry. You're going to have to bear with me because it's like I haven't spoken properly for weeks. It's challenging. Yeah, so about 10 minutes away from the original finding, another bag is found with another bag inside of the bag with duct tape. And you've guessed it, it was the other leg, or the right leg. So that was found in a lay-by. It was in a place called Puckeridge. I like that, Puckeridge. I just think of pucker up, Puckeridge. By now, this whole thing is like quite big news, and the media... I think the media at this point had sort of given the name out of the Jigsaw. I'm not sure if they were a bit unkind, actually, and I think it was started off as the Jigsaw man, as in the victim, and it ended up being the Jigsaw Killer. Because you don't want to be disrespectful of the victim, do you? Like, come on. Even though they didn't know who he was, we can do better. So, yeah, so this is why the case was named that, because all of these parts of this person were just cropping up and being found, yeah, making a whole person. So it was all in the media, all in the news. People were like, oh, crumbs, this is not good. And then on the 11th of April, bearing in mind it is all over the news, there's this walker that's out and he finds a suitcase in a ditch on his stroll. Now, you wouldn't open the frickin' thing, would you? Would you? I don't think I would. Not with what was going on. Maybe they were oblivious. Maybe they didn't watch the news or see a paper or whatever. But anyway, they open up this suitcase and they find the torso. And with testing, it is found that this torso belongs to this same victim. They also found the upper left arm that belonged, that would have attached to the forearm that they already found. And then they also found the whole, in the same suitcase, the whole other arm. So that's quite a lot in a suitcase, isn't it? So torso, upper left arm, and the whole right arm. I say the whole right arm. They'd never, ever found the victim's hands. So the hands were never found. Now, the discovery of the torso in the suitcase would bring to light the cause of death, because the torso had stab wounds, I think 2, and one of those had punctured a lung, and that would have been fatal. So that was then determined as the cause of death, so a punctured lung due to stabbing. Something to note here is that this body dismemberment was clean and good. It was a good, you know what I mean? It wasn't amateur. Didn't seem that way. The person that had done the dismembering, had not gone, yeah. So when people don't know what they're doing, they will normally hack through bone or things like that, whereas this person had dismembered the body like at the joints, and removed them like that. So it was like they'd done it before. You know, they were good at it. Oh, fucking heavens. Don't do that to me, Jesus Christ. I nearly had a heart attack. Nearly had a frickin' hizzle. Are we okay? Don't do that again, because my heart can't take it. The police put out an appeal to the public because they didn't really have anything to go on. They didn't have hands, fingerprints, and also, like, horribly, the head was all disfigured and had like all of the distinguishing features removed. So you can't take a photo or something like that and be like, oh, anyone know this person? Can you imagine? No. So they didn't have anything really to identify the body at this point. Well, I say that. They were having a go with the teeth, because the teeth were still in the head. And sometimes, you know, when I'm talking, I'm just like, I never thought I'd be saying things like this. Anyway, so they sent off the teeth for analysis, and it took a very, very long time for anything. Like, it was tricky. In the meantime, a lot of telephone calls came in about the case, you know, after the police appeal. One of the phone calls was from a woman reporting her son as missing and really, really very upset and distressed about it. And it did pique the interest of investigators. So this woman reported her son. He was 49 years old and he was called Jeffery Howe. And she hadn't seen him for a month and had no contact. And she was saying that this was just really not like him. And then obviously when you hear the news of an unidentified body that's been discovered and you haven't heard from your son, that's really worrying. And so she called in. Jeffrey was a kitchen salesman. He was charming. He was a really nice bloke. And yeah, the police then decided that they had to go and check all of this out. They had to go and have a look and see if they could find Jeffrey. And so they went to his apartment. When they arrived at his apartment, they met somebody called Stephen Marshall. He was 38 and he was living at Jeffrey's apartment. Also living there was Stephen's 21-year-old girlfriend, Sarah Bush. Things started to become suspicious relatively quickly with this pair. The pair were a bit nonchalant about. Is that what you say? The word nonchalant. A bit. They didn't seem all that arsed. Let's put it that way, about the fact that Jeffrey was missing. And they were sort of, just quite chilled out about it and not at all worried or fazed, or even seemed weird that the police were there, you know? So that's a bit odd, isn't it? And they just said that they thought that Jeffrey was travelling. Now, the reason that just seemed was because Jeffrey's passport was just on the side, like just there. Like they were talking to these police officers and like his passport's just there, like in view. Okay. Well, surely the minute you saw that, you must have thought, oh, where's Jeffrey then? Certainly not in France. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. The police were also searching the property and they noted that the property was very clean, like overly clean, and that was a bit suspicious. So yeah, things weren't sitting right with the officers and this couple. Stephen, he was a bodybuilder, so he's a big bloke, and he was a bouncer. But the reason that he was living with Jeffrey and Sarah, his girlfriend, was that they'd fallen on hard times. So Stephen had lost his job and he was out of work, and Jeffrey, who was a very kind person, a very nice bloke, he had agreed for them to live there while they found their feet again, which is really nice. So that's why they were living with Jeffrey. Now, Stephen was also a naughty person. He had previous convictions for assault, and he was currently at the time on bail for assaulting a prostitute. So yeah, a bit of a naughty person. He also, and this is just like okay, red flag, suspicion, highest level, he was previously arrested for murder, right? And the victim had been stabbed 12 times, right? The only reason, and he didn't get convicted because there just wasn't enough evidence. But this is not looking good, is it? Things were equally as sort of troubled for Sarah. She had spent most of her life in foster care as a child. She'd grown up in foster care. She'd had a very difficult start in life, and then she went on and she had 2 children. They were not living with her at the time because she was addicted to drugs, and she found herself in just a not nice, pleasant situation. She was a prostitute and she was addicted to drugs, and then her children couldn't live with her as well. So not a good time for Sarah. And she met Stephen, he was a customer. She was a prostitute and he was her customer, and that's how they met and that's how they started their relationship. So I think that's everything about that couple. So just troubled and unkind. Stephen, definitely. As you can imagine, Stephen and Sarah, they were arrested quite quickly because it was like, okay, weird. But they had no evidence. And when you don't have anything, you've only got 24 hours to have someone or people before you have to let them go if you have no evidence to charge them. So they were arrested on suspicion, and then the police are like, right, 24 hours, go. Like, what can you find? This is when, in the interviews, so in the original interviews of Stephen and Sarah, Stephen was no comment. Great. I don't know about Sarah, actually. I don't know if she started talking at that point, but Stephen definitely did not. While they had them in custody and while they were interviewing them, the investigators were then at the flat doing a very, very thorough search of the property. As part of this very thorough search, they lifted all of the carpets, and lo and behold, what did they find? In the bedroom, they found under the carpet, so on the floorboards and things like that, they found a very, very large blood stain. Oh. And they also found, I'm guessing with the luminol stuff, a lot of blood evidence in the bathroom as well. This was suggestive of somebody being murdered in the bedroom and then their body being taken into the bathroom. The police had to do 2 things. They had to prove that the person murdered in this flat was Jeffrey. They also had to prove that he was murdered by Stephen and Sarah, or Stephen or Sarah, or both. So this was what they had. This was the task that they had. As the case was going on, they also got a bit more evidence. So they found some green fibres on the tape. So do you remember that the bags that were inside the bags with duct tape, they found green fibres on the tape that was used for those bags. And this would then prove to be kind of like the clincher, because when they searched the flat, they found a green t-shirt that belonged to Stephen. And when they tested the fibres of the green t-shirt that belonged to Stephen, they were a match to the green fibres that were found on the tape that was used to tape up the body parts. So that's kind of like a boom shakalaka laka. Got ya. around this time, so it's all sort of coming together, around this time, the dental records, which had taken quite a long time to, like I say, to be processed and to be worked on, they came back and they had managed to match dental records with Jeffery Howe. So it proved that this body was Jeffrey's. Oh, that's just so sad for the family. What a phone call to get. But it did prove that it was his body. And I mean, my first thought, if I'm honest, after like, oh, that's awful for his family, was like, you went as far as, thank God though, but they went as far as to remove like the skin and the lips and the eyes, excuse me, but they did all of that, which is absolutely disgusting, by the way. Like, can you imagine doing that? It's not like they're like squeamish, is it? Eyes out. But they leave the teeth. So kind of like the only thing, Mother Hubbard, that you can get identify somebody with, left the teeth in. That was my second thought. I was just like, well done. I mean, you went so far. What happened? Run out of time? Like, I don't know, can't handle teeth? I don't know. But that to me felt bizarre. I'm just going to pause and rest my head for a minute. I honestly didn't... I hate COVID. I'm so tired. It's like after this, what? I'm just going to go to bed again. It's so boring now. Could have been a lot worse. Got to be grateful that it wasn't. But I want some energy. Someone said about having iron tablets, like a supplement. That might help. Yeah, might try that. I would say gin will help, but oh my God, may kill me off. I digress. Sorry. The next question that the police had was like motive. What was the reason behind, why did Stephen and Sarah kill Jeffrey and then dismember his body? So this was what they had to ascertain next. One of the motives that they came up with was money. It's always freaking money, often money, isn't it? Which is so frustrating, does my nut. Like, is it worth it? And in this case, definitely no. They didn't get away with thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of pounds. It was like $5,000 or something stupid like that. Anyway, the autopsy showed that Jeffrey had sadly been killed on the 8th of March. On that same day, Stephen had taken... Makes me cross. It does make me cross. Got to conserve energy, Sophie. He had taken Jeffrey's phone, mobile phone, to try and sell it. Or was it on eBay? But on that day, on the day that they had murdered him, a phone. Oh, you're going to make your millions. You know what I mean? For God's sake. So they sold his car on eBay shortly afterwards. And his phone, they got 15 quid for. And in total, they spent and, ended up selling things for the amount of about £5,000. It just, okay, it's just senseless, isn't it? It's so, it does such a lack of regard for a person's life that it's just like, it's just so flippant and it really pisses me off. Can you tell? Another factor that the police thought was behind the murder was that Jeffrey had recently asked the pair to move on. Well, he'd actually asked them to contribute rent, so they had been living at his flat for a while. He'd obviously been very kind and taken them in and said, find your feet and then, be on your way. And if they were going to stay, he was like, well, maybe now's the time that you need to start contributing or find somewhere else to go. Fair enough. And they didn't take kindly to that. So, yeah, so they killed him. Honestly. With all of this evidence that was coming in, mounting up, Stephen started to talk. He started to share his side of the story. And he, of course, said that he hadn't murdered Stephen. Sarah had murdered Stephen. and it wasn't him. He did admit to dismembering the body. He said Sarah, fit of rage, she got cross and she stabbed Jeffrey. She wasn't happy. She killed him. I then helped her and I dismembered the body and we got rid of Jeffrey's body together. But he didn't kill him. No. And then Sarah, they obviously told Sarah, he's thrown you under the bus, love. She then started to have a chit chat as well. And she said, no, in fact, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't murder him. It was Stephen. And I didn't dismember the body. That was also Stephen. And yes, I was with him when he got rid of the head. Lovely. By now, the police have got a lovely lot of evidence. Let's have a look at what they've got. They've got some CCTV footage that shows Sarah and Stephen driving to Leicestershire or Leicestershire, I forget, sorry. And I've written kind of a mixture of both of those words in my notes. Whatever I said originally. Okay, that place, Jesus, Sophie. They had CCTV of the pair in the car going there, and that's where Jeffrey's head was found. They also had the green fibres that were a match to Stephen's t-shirt. They had the blood evidence, which they then linked to Jeffrey as well, so it proved that it was Jeffrey's blood. They also had identified Jeffrey's body, so they now knew that the victim was linked to Sarah and Stephen. They also had a hefty paper trail of Stephen and Sarah's spending of Jeffrey's money. So they were using his credit cards after his murder and they were selling his stuff. So they had that evidence as well. Stephen changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. There was just so much evidence. And Sarah, she pleaded guilty to helping dispose of the body. Because they had pleaded guilty, there was no trial. And then they just had mitigation, which is a chance for the accused or the guilty to say why they've done what they've done, offer an explanation, I suppose, and maybe an apology. And the whole idea is to make yourself look remorseful and, well, I guess kind of try and put yourself in a better light, even though you've done something terrible. I don't think Stephen got the memo, basically. No. He went into his mitigation and was like, oh, yeah, to be honest, it's not the first time. Oh, right. It just gets bizarre. So he then went on to say that in the 90s, he worked as a bouncer in a famous nightclub or whatever that was owned by a notorious gang in London called the Addams family. Right? And yeah, so he was a bouncer, but not only was he a bouncer for them, he was also their sort of oh my God, he was like a lurch. He was like their lurch. That's not funny, but okay, anyway, so he would get rid of bodies for them. Lovely. By dismembering them and then taking them to Epping Forest and burying the body parts. Okay. So rather than make himself look any better in this situation, he just confessed to even more crimes. So, oh my God, it just doesn't, they were like, oh, please do carry on. Stephen was sentenced to a minimum of 36 years in prison without parole until that point, and Sarah got 3 years and 9 months for her part in it. The only evidence that they had against Sarah in Jeffrey's case was that she had been seen travelling to Leicestershire with Stephen, and that's where Jeffrey's severed head was discovered. So she got 3 years and 9 months. And interestingly, when she spoke, she said that Jeffrey's hands, do you remember they never found his hands? They were buried in Epping Forest. So, this is the place that Stephen said, I think he said it was four bodies he dismembered in his time in the 90s as a bouncer or disposal man what do you call that? Dog's body. Like when he was doing that, he dismembered and disposed of 4 bodies in Epping Forest. And yeah, Sarah said that this was where Jeffrey's hands had been buried. But despite that, the police actually did search Epping Forest quite a lot to try and find Jeffrey's hands, and they never did. So his hands were never found. What an eerie thought. Because I think, how many people go around Epping Forest? Oh God, that is weird, isn't it? Did they find... I didn't research that. I wonder if they actually found anybody. Surely the body parts of those 4 people are there still. Well, their bones and stuff. How big is Epping Forest? So they didn't find the hands, and I didn't read that they found any human remains. That's weird, isn't it? I wish I'd researched that now. Maybe they did and I just didn't, because I didn't look. Silly. Anyhow, that is the case of Jeffery Howe. It's only this minute that I've just thought, geez, he just tried to help them out, didn't he? And then that got thrown right in his face. Awful. Anyway, that is all I have on this case today. I'm going to have to Google about the Epping Forest situation. I'll put it in the description box and tell you what I find, if I find anything. Yeah, it's been lovely to be back. I am really tired, but, you know, you just got to keep going, carrying on, slowly but surely. And tomorrow I'm just gonna take it easy for the rest of this week. Yes, I've missed you all. It's been very weird not coming up to the shed. Anyway, I can feel my throat going, so great timing, because we got to the end of the video and I am going to now lay down for a few hours. Thank you so much for joining me again for another episode of Sin and Tonic. I hope you can join me next week for another true crime story and a glorious mug of hopefully gin. Next week, we'll see how we're going. But yes, I've missed you, I love you, and I shall see you all next week. Bye!